What's going on, everyone? Hope you're doing well on this Tuesday. So today we're going to finish that article on Srebrenica, and then we're going to watch a video, short video, like 8 minutes from CNN. Unfortunately, there are no subtitles. I wish there were subtitles, but the reason we're going to watch that is because the genocide that happened in Yugoslavia is going to be mentioned. They're actually going to be talking to a retired general. I believe he's a general. And he was part of this mission to preserve the crime scene. Now, the reason we're talking about that today is, well, we're talking about the Yugoslavian genocide, but there's possibly, fingers crossed that it's not, that there is a genocide going on in Ukraine right now. Might just be war crimes. We're going to talk about in the article today, the definition for genocide is very specific, but at the very least, there could be war crimes going on. And in the CNN video, I need to talk about why you need to be careful watching CNN too. But in the CNN video, he's going to talk about how difficult it is to try to preserve that war crime, to gather evidence while there's an actual war going on. All right, so excuse me, sorry about my voice. When you watch CNN, now I'm going to be showing you CNN. I really don't like showing CNN or Fox News in school, but this is just kind of so perfect. I personally watch both. I watch CNN and I watch Fox. Not that much, but sometimes when I'm searching through YouTube, they'll have like a flashy title like, oh, I need to watch this. But when you're watching CNN, realize that Democrats, okay, the people who support President Biden, that's who CNN is for. So as you're watching CNN, just make sure, like, okay, so we call it like slanted. This news is going to be slanted towards President Biden. Like, they're going to show him in a better light. They don't show news that is fair and balanced. Fox News doesn't either, even though that's one of their slogans, fair and balanced. They lean more towards the Republicans. So people who support former President Trump, people like that, called right and the left. If you were in my class last year, we went over that for social studies. We went over that quite a bit. So Democrats, Republicans, be careful. Anytime you watch CNN or your parents have CNN on or Fox News, just know that it's totally slanted. We have to take it with a grain of salt. Realize that they're trying to like prop up their beliefs. So this one's pretty much down the middle though. They're talking about some war crimes that we're actually talking about in class and then also current events. So I thought it was like perfect, but I just wanted to make sure that was out there. So on to the article that we'll be reading today that lines up perfectly with what is going on, unfortunately, in the world today. We have read the first part of this. So the Srebrenica massacre is the only recognized genocide since Holocaust. That's not to say that there haven't been war crimes since then, and we already read how the Serbian president went on Montenegrin TV, pretty much admitted it. We're going to talk more about, we talked about Pope Francis, definitely Catholic. A whole bunch of religion going on in there. You have the Orthodox Muslim religion and or Islam and Catholics. Now, the two that we're going to read today, the definition of genocide is very specific. Guess what that's going to be about? Trying to pin down exactly what genocide is. And then the last part, we've talked about ethnic cleansing. We're going to try to decide how ethnic cleansing and genocide are slightly different. Both are horrible, but there are definitions for both. All right, let's start with this here. Definition of genocide is very specific. It would seem that, according to the ICJ, trying to make a geographical area ethnically homogeneous does not show the special intent required for genocide. All right, lots of big words there. If something is homogeneous or homogeneous, you'll hear both pronunciations, it means it's made up of the same people. That's what homogeneous is. So if we're talking about ethnic cleansing here, that would do, hang on, that would, seriously, it's probably going to be a 12-minute video with 7 minutes of me clearing my throat. So if you want an area, a geographical area, an area on the map, an area where you live, to be homogeneously, ethnically homogeneous, that would mean you have to get rid of some ethnicity. Now, you could force them to move out of that area. Hopefully it's done like in a civil manner so that people aren't dying on the way to wherever you're trying to take them. But even if nobody dies, that still could be, we'll get to it later, that still could be considered ethnic cleansing. If you're moving people out of an area, it gets really complicated. We're not going to get, I mean, it's so deep. We're not going to get into like Israel and stuff like that. That plays a part of it. So it's not part of what we're talking about today. And then genocide would be the same thing, but you're killing people to do that. So homogeneous, all of the same ethnicity or whatever, religion, you know, because of course religion plays a part in this. All right, back to the article. Big words right there. Likewise, forced removal, even when accompanied by mass killings, does not count as genocide. Why? Because the main intention is not to destroy the protected group. So even if people are dying along the way when you're forcing them to leave, that doesn't necessarily mean it's genocide. The same conclusion was reached by the International Commission of Inquiry on Darfur in Sudan, a place we haven't talked about yet, but we might. So, you know, this article, I'm going to try to stick to the main part of the article here, but Darfur, when you're talking about Sudan, South Sudan became a country in 2008. It might be the youngest country still, the newest country. I don't know. I got to look that up maybe. Or somebody, I'm sure, while I'm saying this, is probably looking it up. But in 2008, South Sudan separated from Sudan after an intense civil war and some potential genocide. But of course, it hasn't been recognized as genocide yet. I guess the main idea of this article is it is extremely hard to prove genocide. All right, back to more throat clearing and more article here. The Commission's 2004 report found that, generally speaking, the policy of attacking, killing, and forcibly displacing members of some groups in Sudan did not display the special intent needed for genocide. Instead, the people who planned and organized attacks on villages pursued the intent to drive the victims from their homes. So what was their intention? Not necessarily to kill. Not necessarily to kill, just to remove people from the area. It's still horrible, right? People are dying along the way, not technically genocide. Kind of crazy. Also, proving special intent has been very difficult. It has been shown that there is a pattern of conduct from which the only reasonable inference to be drawn is an intent by the relevant authorities to destroy the protected group. Now, remember, this is written at a 9th grade level. Very tough right there. So the only reasonable inference to be drawn, the only conclusion you can come up with, the only thing you can imagine is that the people in charge want to destroy this group. Death. The effect of this is that if the case goes to the ICJ via the Genocide Convention, reparations, it's one of our words there, or other remedies to the victims' families can only be given if genocide is proven. If the terrible actions do not carry the special intent, they might still be war crimes or crimes against humanity. But the ICJ is powerless to act against countries that commit the actions. The individual perpetrators might face trial. So when we're talking about 2022 here, just recently, President Biden has said that President Putin is a war criminal and that he should be brought to trial. Easier said than done, something we'll keep watching. I mean, I don't know how you get to this guy, Putin, to put him on trial. And that's one thing that the CNN video is going to talk about. Like, people need to get in to Ukraine where there is a possible mass killing, just like different from genocide, mass killing, and try to preserve that evidence for a potential war trial. Again, it's hard to do. The next one here, the individual perpetrators may face trial, but there can be no punishment against the country they served, like forcing it to pay money to victims. That would be something that might be considered reparations right there, forcing the country to pay money to victims or the victims' families. Ethnic cleansing versus genocide. The unfortunate consequences of this were shown in 2015 during the case of Croatia versus Serbia. So 2015, a mere 7 years ago, but what we're talking about happened 30 years ago. So it often takes a long time to get people to trial. And oftentimes it's just like for history to recognize, because sometimes the people who committed the atrocities are in fact like dead. For example, when we talk about Armenia and Turkey, we're talking about something that happened 100 years ago. So anybody committing those crimes against humanity, or genocide or ethnic cleansing, war crimes, they're not around anymore. But it's just so like that country can recognize its wrongdoing. And so far, Turkey has wanted no part of that. Man, something else we could talk about just briefly. Disney came out with a new series called Moon Knight, Disney Plus, streaming on Disney Plus. And there's one part of the first episode of that series where the Armenian genocide is mentioned. And so apparently on certain message boards or whatever, a lot of people are giving it bad reviews, maybe like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes. They're giving that bad reviews simply because they said that took place, whereas people in Turkey, or the Turkish government at least, has never recognized that as a genocide. We'll be talking more about that later, but I mean, it's still current. So much of this stuff we're talking about, it might have happened 30 years ago or 100 years ago. It's still coming up in recent releases or the news today relating to Ukraine. All right, the last little bit here, ethnic cleansing versus genocide. Second paragraph. In this case, Serbia did not contest the systematic and widespread nature of certain attacks against the Croatian people. So in this case, Serbia is like, yeah, that happened. They did not try to deny it. It argued that the attacks were intended to force Croats to leave the regions concerned. So maybe ethnic cleansing, they said, but not genocide. The ICJ accepted this and also repeated the findings of the ICTY. This will be mentioned in the CNN video, which found that various war crimes and crimes against humanity were aimed at forcing the Croats out of certain regions rather than destroying them. Okay, I guess a big difference there. Forcing people from their homes is so much different from like going through the neighborhood and just killing people in their homes, something like that, or as they try to flee. The Serbian defense was that it was not committing genocide because instead it was carrying out ethnic cleansing. So you can imagine that in court. Like, no, we weren't trying to just like completely destroy an ethnic people of a certain ethnicity. We're just trying to get rid of them. I guess it's a little bit better, but still, it's not great. Forcing people out of their homes, a government forcing people out of their homes. It cannot be right that ethnic cleansing has become a defense against genocide. So no, we're just ethnic cleansing. We weren't committing genocide. When mass killings accompany massive forced removal with a goal of creating an ethnically pure state, then let's call the killings what they are, genocide. Now, this is where the author's opinion comes in. So we have to be careful there. This is James Sweeney's opinion right there. Right here at the last paragraph, he gets very much his opinion in here. At least then we might stand a chance of honoring the victims and supporting their families. We also stand a better chance of reforming those who deny or even celebrate their role in or support for genocide. Okay. So what the article takes a major shift there at the end, and it's like it's presenting a whole bunch of evidence, which was great for us. And then the author of the article, in the last paragraph, presents his opinion. We need to be very careful that we don't get wrapped up in, okay, fact. Whoops. We need to recognize that his opinion is there at the end. Okay. So the next thing we'll watch, CNN. Remember, CNN, watch out. Their news is slanted towards the left, we would say.